All right, Duke, what's going on, man? Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year to you as well, man. I'm doing well.
Good, man. Good. I've been looking forward to, this as always, and I think this year for the all pro team that we're going to do, there's as much variance this year as I can remember, outside of maybe a couple positions, and I think part of that is due to some injuries that we've had, like a left tackle we're going to kick off with there, and Andrew Thomas is hurt, Darisaw's hurt, Trent is hurt. So we got some new faces here. I think that are worth mentioning. Some similar ones too. So I, right off the top with left tackle, I think it's going to be a little bit more of an interesting discussion than we've typically had because of some of those injuries.
Yeah, definitely. You just named some of the guys that have been out with injury, and then like some of the historical names that we've typically seen at left tackle. Your Tyron Smiths and your Teron Armsteads have kind of been in and out of the lineup.
Hmm.
But again, Andrew Thomas has been out. Darisaw out. Darisaw was playing really well before he went out. Um,
Yep. And then
and
Trent. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely Trent. I mean, Trent has kind of had a lock on that left tackle, first team All Pro. So it's definitely going to be different.
All right. So, this first team, this is the first time we've had him. I think our first team, at least for me, you might go different here, but I think it's kind of one or two guys for both of us. But for me, I'll kick it off, and my first team left tackle will be Bucks left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who, man, I just think when you stack him up with the other guys in consideration, I just think just fewer losses in pass protection ultimately is what it comes down to. And a similar level as a run blocker as what we have, in consideration as well. I think it's comparable there. But this is a guy who rarely loses in pass protection. Just he does a great job. I think of, when we talk about tackles or offensive linemen building their house in pass protection and playing
Mhm.
with a firm base and good weight distribution and just a real being able to anchor on command. I just, that's Tristan Wirfs to me. His center of gravity and core strength are outstanding, as are, the next guy that we're going to talk about. But that to me is what stands out. He rarely looks like he's stressed out. He gave up 0 sacks this year. Pressure wise, he's charted for 11. I went back and watched those again, and I saw 7 clean losses that he had. Including 2, I think last week or the week before against Dallas. Carl Lawson actually got him twice. Once his foot kind of got caught up and he got ran over. That one was kind of a fluky one. But another one he bit on an inside move. I think it was a TE, like a fake TE or something that he lost. He got edged by Max Crosby once. Lost on another TE against the Saints. Benito, actually Denver, he lost twice clean in that game against Benito and Jonah Ellis. So, but that's the extent of his losses. He got long armed once against DJ Wanham, which was kind of a weird one because he's not like a super high caliber rusher. But all in all, man, I just had to go with him. I just thought his season was the cleanest in the league this year at left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that. My first team is going to be Rashawn Slater. I thought that Rashawn Slater played really well this year. He's playing with a bit of a pec injury that he had early on in the year, and just kind of people thought he was done for the season, and he ended up, I think, only missing one game. What really boils down to with me is so you've got the game against the Cleveland Browns when he went against Myles Garrett, and that, I mean, Miles is a mutant. But then when you look at some other head to heads, and the two games that stick out to me are kind of two that you touched on, the Saints and going against Chase Young. When I compare apples to apples, I thought Slater played Chase Young a little firmer than Wirfs overall. And then against Benito. Now, that was the performance to me that where I thought, like, okay, there was some talk about Benito, potentially being in a conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Which, I mean, you can say that, but I think Myles Garrett is a guy that you got to really honor that towards. But I just thought that Rashawn played both of those guys better than Wirfs played those guys. So for me, when I'm looking at the head to head and who's clean and who's not, it's really hard to argue with either one of them. I thought they were both did extremely well in the run game as
Mhm.
well. So man, it's good to be able to talk about two young guys that I mean, there's they may be scratching and clawing for the next 10 years about who's taking first team and second team here. So worse would be my second team.
Okay, yeah, so it's basically just swapped for you and I, and yeah, both those guys are 25 years old, so, like, beginning of their prime, which is awesome. These 2, I think, are truly the next, Trent and Tyron,
Oh, they're elite, man.
yeah, they're elite. Uh,
They I mean, even when you look at like the Bengals game, Trey Hendrickson is a guy that will set it on fire, and he's going to get his stressors. He's going to get his where he's able to play with speed to power and convert on that. But I mean, when you look at that matchup head to head with him and Slater, it was a fun one to watch. It was a fun one to watch,
it
and
always has been too.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
and plain and simple, when you look at again the matchup with him and Max Crosby, Crosby ended up switching back to uh, play over Joe Alt. But it's just like
Mhm.
when I look at like some of with the exception of Miles Garrett, when you look at some of these elite guys that lined up against Slater, he erased him, man. And I think that to me is what an All Pro is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I thought, in the 2 Denver games, Benito got him twice, both with stutter bowls. One of them, I thought that his foot may have been stepped on, but it
Yeah,
looked like
one of them, his foot was stepped on. The other one was clean.
okay, yeah. So that one was kinda tough to tell, but, yeah, and then the one loss against Trey, and then he got buckled too, kind of a similar situation of, the Wirfs loss to Lawson, where he got buckled and ran over, that happened with, Rashawn against Arden Key. Those are kind of fluky ones too, though, so, it's like they're did he get buckled because of the move or just because his feet got caught up? It's kinda tough to tell
Yeah, Works
sometimes.
had one. And I think you look at most tackles they have. I think the only tackle that I have not seen that happened to is maybe Lane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Lane, we'll get to Lane. Yeah, he's kind of in his operating in his own area,
Yeah,
his own neighborhood right now. But all right, yeah, so we like to do third team. Third team is really interesting. For me, it came down to 2 guys, and for me that was Deion Dawkins,
yep.
Bills left tackle, and also for me, my fourth guy would be Broncos left tackle Garrett Bowles,
Mhm.
who I thought had the best year of his career this year. Who knew that we would be talking about Bowles in a conversation like this 3 years ago or something? But credit to him, he's really stepped up his game and just become more consistent. However, I went with the edge with Dion. I just think he has more impactful blocks,
Agree.
than Bowles, and that's really the separating factor. There's a little bit of more variance with Dawkins than you would want, and that's why he's not first or second. I charted and watched 11 clean losses that he had this year, whereas Wirfs and Slater are under double digits. So just a little bit more of that from Dion. Um, so that was kind of the separating factor there. But Dion, I thought, was the third team.
Yeah, I would say that the Dion probably has more losses too because he takes more chances and does a lot
He
more
does, yeah.
unorthodox things than I would say Wirfs and Slater are more. This is what I'm going to do, and good luck beating me. Dion is like a brawler out there, and
Yeah,
he
right.
does take chances, but like that's the context that's
Yep.
needed when you're evaluating. Bowles. So Bowles definitely had a great year, but there's a game specifically, and I'm trying to remember who it was. It was early on in the season where he really struggled to stop the speed to power. And
Seattle, he struggled quite a
It was
bit.
Seattle. It was Seattle because
Yeah,
McGlinchey ended up getting hurt. Um, yeah, absolutely, it was Seattle.
yep.
Uh,
That
that
was his
game,
worst game. Yeah.
yeah, that game stuck out to me, and to me, like it's very difficult when we're talking about an All Pro to kind of move on from a game like that when you don't really have when you're not really facing like an elite rusher. Now I get it. Here's the thing: is like there's certain matchups. It doesn't matter if it's elite or not. There's certain matchups that just some guys like have your number.
Yep,
But
yep.
I just thought that like that particular game stuck out for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally fair. And the nature of his losses are still extremely decisive, like
Yeah,
whereas even some of the clean losses with Rashawn and Tristan and even Dion, like they're still kind of attached, like Bulls will still have those kind of glaring ones. So I think just Denver collectively as a line this year, more than individual play necessarily is really the story there, like coaching and
yeah,
how they're playing, 5 is 1 and that kind of thing. So
mhm,
all right, let's go to left guard. You want to kick us off here for left guard?
absolutely. So my first team All Pro left guard is going to be Joe Tooney. I think that Tooney has come out and now playing left tackle has been pretty impressive. But
Yeah,
I think just what he's provided the Chiefs, one out of three key cogs to the machine in that interior, it's just been it's very consistent, and he makes a difference. He makes a difference. He's a difference maker. They are winning games because of him, and then because of two other players up front, and of course Patrick Mahomes. But that O line goes as that interior goes, and I think that Joe Tooney has earned the recognition to be first team All Pro left guard this year.
yeah. It's not as decisive as it was at midseason for me, where we had Tooney first team.
Yeah,
But I am still going to give him the nod as well. I think just the ability to go out to left and play, especially against elite level guys that he's played against, including Miles Garrett. I just think not that he's lights out or anything against these guys, but he's better than what they had, and he's kind of a stabilizing force in some sense. There, I just think that's such a credit to him and his versatility, and that's rare. And then, he's charted for 24 pressures according to PFF. I watched him. A handful of those, I don't think should have been pressures.
no,
However, I think it's important to point out of those 24, about half of them have came with him at left tackle. So if you're just looking at his left guard film, I mean, he rarely ever got beat at left guard this season. So I think a large portion of those losses that he's had this year is just him at left against elite level players, and he's a guard. So
yeah,
but yeah, his value is undeniable, I think. So I'm with you there. I think he's kind of hands down the first team All Pro left guard this year. I think after that it gets really interesting.
interesting,
Yeah, I'll let you just keep going with left guard. Who are you going with second team?
man. There's really there's a couple of names there that you can mention.
Yeah,
I think that early on Tyler Smith started off inconsistent. The technique was inconsistent, the hand placement, but I think that Tyler Smith has really been a difference maker and a steadfast performer for the Cowboys with so much going on.
had to play left as well.
Absolutely had to play left tackle as well. He's
Yeah,
kind of been the MVP of that line this year,
absolutely.
and has been dominant. I mean,
Yeah,
there's some dominant blocks that he comes
yeah,
from that left spot at for the Cowboys.
yeah.
Another
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to echo just what you're saying because he's my second team pick as well. So we're aligned on these first two. Yeah, like you said, early in the year, I think it was Baltimore and Pittsburgh. We saw them in like end of September, beginning of October, and those are the games that he had some losses. Matabuike, Hayward, guys like that. So. But yeah, all in all, just what he does in the run game, his play strength, his power is special, and yeah, so second team as well for me.
Yep. Who would be your third team?
Yeah, third team. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Landon here. Landon Dickerson, Eagles left guard. It's tough. I think there's Quentin Nelson has a strong case
Yep.
here. There's other guys I want to at least mention like Ben Powers, Elton Jenkins, even Peter Skoronski. Um, I think is worth
Yeah.
a mention here. He just didn't get beat a whole lot this season relative to these other guys. He has some hiccups here and there, but I mean most of these guys that we're talking about at this point do. I just think with Quentin in the run game, what he does is really special still. And then with Landon, I wanted to talk a little bit about him here because when you look at his numbers and things like that, if you look at him